G'day, punters. Welcome to another episode of the Footy Form Guide podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Walley, joined as always by my good mate, Harro. How are you, mate?
Going well, Wally. Feeling really good about how the weekend went, and there's only 6 rounds to go. Now, some sides have given up already by the sounds of things, but we definitely haven't, mate. We're going from strength to strength and looking forward to another big one.
Very good, mate. Very good. Look, I'll tell you what, good weekend of footy from the punting perspective as well. Discord went off again this weekend. Make sure, look, go and check it out, punters. If you're listening to this or you're watching this and you haven't checked out the Discord, go to our Twitter page, go to our Insta page. You'll be able to find the links there and the how-tos there to get involved. Even if you just try it for a month, it's worth it. And the other thing, Harro, straight off the top is we've done giveaways in the Discord before. We're going to be doing a giveaway a day on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week in the Discord. So it's the best possible week to join. More details to come. And we'll put details on our social so people can get involved as well. But stay tuned. The details that'll come out on the morning of each day of footy, which is exciting. Harro, we've got to look back to look forward, mate. What did we get right from the weekend on the punt?
Yeah, so the positives out of the weekend, mate. We started off with Freo at the line and the over total points, and that was not looking good at halftime. But Freo flexed their muscles, and I think they had a 100-point second half, which was unbelievable, and that got us both of those bets. Talking about the total points bets, I actually suggested a total points bet on every game on the weekend, and 8 out of 9 of them got up, which was sensational. The best bet, we had the Pies under 95.5, and they ended up scoring 89, so we won on that one. I was very, very strong on the Crows on the weekend, and they absolutely pantsed the Suns. Also, with that game was probably our best game for the round. We had Rankin disposals, Rochelle goals, so that was a beauty for us. The bad, mate, as always, there's a few things that don't go our way. I mentioned we got 8 out of the 9 total points bets. The bad one, the one that went wrong, was the Cats and Giants. And yeah, we didn't get much right in that game. Actually, we liked Sam DeConning being the only ruck, and we were a bit stiff there because he had 50% game time at half time and just never really got into it. And they just persisted with Blixavs being the number one guy in there, despite him getting destroyed. So that was a bad game for us. Most of the other games went really well. We had a couple of player bets that didn't go our way either. One I thought we were pretty stiff on was Cozzy Pickett, who needed his 25. He had 17 at halftime and then basically had a holiday after halftime. And he cost us. So overall, mate, though, very positive stuff.
Well, Harry, you called it, mate. Like, the Geelong games are notoriously hard to bet into, and we found that was the case again. Anyway, another good weekend on the punt. Let's head to the selection table. It's back this week. I've got one in and a couple of outs. A big in for me, Harro, and I think it's a bit frightening, but I think a Freo v Brisbane grand final has never been more on the cards 6 rounds out than we have at the moment. If Freo were able to do that to Sydney based off only kicking 11 points in the first quarter at this time, God knows what they're going to be like come finals. And Brisbane just keep going from strength to strength, and they're going to finish top 4. They're probably going to finish third, Harro, which means they get Sydney. And I think the Brisbane will be very happy playing the Swans in the first final. I don't think anyone's going to go over to the West and win, but I hope I'm wrong, mate. But I reckon that is a massive win for me. I think that's the grand final. I've had a look. You can get as big as 460, 480 on the Quinella if you go shopping. I reckon that's a big price, Harro. I reckon that it's more than a 20% chance of happening. Anyway, that's my in. My outs for this week. Firstly is the umpiring. Are we actually taking the piss now? Like, I know that it's a tough job, but I was watching that game on Saturday night. Ginnivan's played on, the umpire's called played on. The Carlton player's gone off his mark, and then he's copped a 50-metre penalty. It's about as bad as it gets. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe he's had an absolute brain fade. And I just don't, like, there's 40 on the ground. Like, you're doing a quarter of the work that the umpires used to do when they were getting it better. I just don't get it. I'm not saying it's on them. It's definitely on the AFL. But like, and then, yeah. And the AFL haven't addressed it, Harro. They haven't addressed it.
I think
It's
it
like the worst
actually
decision they've had in so long, and no one said anything.
probably
Anyway,
cost the
that
Blues
was.
the game, that one.
Oh yeah, I think it was. I think that was the difference. Oh no, but no. But then there was a run on it. He was good, by the way, Guinea in the wet. And then the other out for me is the Gold Coast. This is extraordinary, mate. They are a rabble. Let's just have a look at this at the moment on where they've gone. They've just signed Walter, so that's a positive. But King and Humphrey both want out, right? We know that. They want to move back to Melbourne. Damien Hardwick looks like he doesn't want to be there. He's complaining week in, week out. And then after all of this, like they've added Petrarca, they added Real the year before. They've got this team that should be successful. The cherry on top of all this is Damien Hardwick saying that mathematically we can't play finals when they're one game out of the 10, Harrow, with 6 rounds to go. That is giving up. If your coach says that in a presser, you're all just going to give up. So I don't know. And do you know what's the best bit? They start as favourites this week against the Dogs, but we'll get to that. So they're a massive out for me, Harrow. I reckon that they are becoming. They're only new, but they're becoming like one of the toughest teams to support. Because there's
funny,
nothing
isn't it? Because if I was an AFL player, I reckon it'd be there in Sydney would be the 2 places you'd want to play. You know, like no one really knows who you are. They've got the
Great
most beautiful weather and beaches and stuff. Like you could be out, you know, surfing in the morning, going to footy training, you know, living an anonymous life up there pretty much in beautiful weather. And like, what's not to like about it up there? And yet they can't keep their players. It's weird.
No. Battling. Anyway, they're a rabble. Okay, mate, we're going to get into it. There was a couple of questions off social. Now, as we said, there's been a lot more coming through on the Discord, which get hit. There was a couple of questions. There was one around how do you recommend spending? We put some information around staking on. It's pinned to our Twitter page, Harrow. And like the biggest thing, it's saying how do you stake an individual game with SGMs, and we don't really do that. Like the main thing is you find what your best bet is, and that's where you're going to have your biggest bet on, and then just you work out your system, however you scale the bet based on your confidence of the bet and the value you're getting. There's no set. We never have a set thing, do we, Harrow, where we go into a game and go, okay, we're going to have X amount of dollars on this and this and this. And every game we bet into, we will bet different amounts.
Yeah. So
it's all around how confident you are on the bets you're placing.
Yeah, I saw this question, and there was he sort of asked, "Do you bet singles, multis, and all this sort of stuff?" And the way I do it is the first thing I go and do is I go through the game and I find all the singles I like, and they'll be the first thing that I'll have. And the singles make up the majority of the bets, right? And then from there, you might pick out your couple of favourites and have a multi, or you might think that there's a few of those singles that actually they suit having a multi with, and you might put a multi together, and that'll be like the last thing that I'll do. But we don't go in saying we're going to spend X amount, because some games I'll go through and I might find 10 singles that I like. Other games I'll go through, I might find 2. So, you know, you're basically betting based on what value is provided to you. You're not setting out to spend an X amount on a game.
Very good. We spoke about this earlier. Do we need to watch out for teams resting players mid-game, like Cozzy moved to full forward, gone bench 10 minutes or so? I mean, you do, but it's pretty hard to predict because it's like what's going to happen in the game. How are they traveling? Did they get a knock? How are they feeling? Like, you just don't know. Like, if it's bruise-free footy and Cozzy's flying and he's had 25 and 3 goals and he goes, you know what, guys, I'm going, I want to continue. If Gawn's had a knock in the ruck and they're like, we're up by 50 points, let's just rest him. Like, it's too hard to predict that stuff, Harro.
It is a bit, yeah.
And the last one, why does Harro watch footy with the volume on mute? I reckon it might be a commentator thing just quietly, Richard. Would that be fair to say, Harro?
There is that, but like also often, especially with these overlapping games, I'm kind of working on the next game with the footy on in the background, and it can be a bit distracting when you're trying to work on other stuff. And I'm keeping an eye on it, but I'm also working on the next game as well. And so that's a good reason to have it on mute. The other good reason is like if Callie Underwood's on, or um, one of those commentators. There's a few of them out there, isn't there? That just Gary Lyon, if he happens to be on, I'm just not going to listen to that trash.
Yeah,
And
fair enough.
so
Yeah.
I avoid those, but there's some good ones there as well. Like I don't know, but if there's nothing else, if I'm not working on another game and it's like Carlton Collingwood this weekend, I'll have the volume on for that and I'll be watching that.
Mate,
But
of course you
a
will.
lot of the
Of course you will.
a lot of the time I'm just working on the next game, and so I have the
Yep.
game on mute.
Yep, absolutely. It wouldn't have been a commentator question if Callie Underwood didn't get a drive by. I'll just say that, Harrow. I think
She's that bad,
that's part of the
though.
course
Let's
in
be
the
honest.
AFL world. All right, let's get stuck into the games. We're going to start with Geelong St Kilda, which is an interesting one because the Cats now go from challenging top four down to making sure they can secure a wildcard berth at the moment and hopefully getting back into the six. They've got injuries galore. Apparently, they had 3 players in hospital. It was Cameron, Tanner Bruin, and there was one other um, on
Yeah,
um, on Saturday.
Jack Henry.
Yeah, but Sean Manor with the Sacramento again with the clearing the 30 and 3. He's had the two, probably arguably the two best ones because he kicked 5 and 4 goals respectively in the two he's got. Geelong's $1.54 favourite at home. St Kilda have to head down the highway and they're 2.49. The line is a couple of goals at 12.5. Harrow, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I know. It's funny you say, Geelong cruel by injuries. I think now they had 3 injuries on the weekend, so that makes 4 altogether on their list. I mean,
Yeah,
they've had a blessed run with injuries for 2 years now, so I don't accept that as an excuse. Um, One thing I worked out here, look, this is going to be played in perfect winter conditions. It will be like a little bit dewy though. Like it's always going to be dewy in a night game down at the Cattery, especially this time of year. So you got to factor that into the way this game's going to be played. Both teams off 5-day breaks here, but there's sort of 2 different types of 5-day breaks as far as I'm concerned. The Cats are 3 games in 14 days, which is normal. Where the Saints are 3 games in 11 days, which is not normal. And so I'm ruling out a bet on the Saints based on them being at a higher risk of being a bit flat. Having said that, the Saints, they haven't travelled. They haven't had any tough games either. They've been pretty easy games. So I just think there's enough doubt, though, with the 3 games in 11 days. Otherwise, I'd probably be saying the values with the Saints.
yeah.
But I just think the 3 games in 11, I'm just staying away. The 182.5, the total points, they're like, it's exactly where I'd have it, unfortunately. So I know we've been finding so many of these bets lately, but this one, you got to set your own line and work out whether the line the bookies have set is wrong or not. And here I don't see it. Where I do see the potential for some bets here, Wally, is the Saints have been racking up massive numbers of disposals, right? So the last 3 games, they've had over 430 disposals in each one of them. Now
Wow.
they've all been in perfect conditions at Marvel. I think Marvel suits that high possession type of footy. I don't think in the Dew against the Cats, it's going to suit the high disposal footy. So I'm looking at the Saints here going, you're looking at all their players. The team's been having 400 and they've gone 437, 447, 437. Like it's just huge numbers. I'm thinking that they're going to have a big drop off, and maybe something around in the 380s is more likely for them. And so you're looking at wiping off 2 possessions off every player on average, but really you're wiping off 3 or 4 off the guys who have been going really high, and you're wiping 1 or 2 off the guys who have been going in the middle. So I've had a bit of a look, and there's a few here I reckon that we can get on the under. And the first one that came up was Windhager. His line is 23.5, and he's only cleared that 7 of 17 games this year. Darcy Wilson at 22.5. He's been creeping over 22.5, even with his team having 430 disposals. And he's only over in 7 of 16 games this year. So that's where I'm. And I think, I just tell the punters, have a look into these St Kilda guys and see if you can find any blokes that might be worth opposing, because I feel like they're going to have a big drop off. You have to. I mean, you can't go on having 430 plus disposals every week. And now they get a tougher opponent. So you do have to look at their opponents too. I mean, they've had the Bombers, Port, and who they have the other week on the weekend. Was it the Pies before that? Well, anyway, they've had three really high conceding sides. Like Port are a high conceding side right now, even though they weren't earlier in the year. So anyway, I'm getting a bit away from the topic, but just on matchups. So I just have in my memory here that Ross Lyon, he likes to send someone to Stewart. And I remember Mitch Owens doing a really good job on him last year. I think he kept him to 12 disposals. He did it also the year before, and they end up putting Stewart in the midfield to try and disrupt it. But I don't see that happening. But I do see Ross sending someone to Stewart again, because Ross, he likes to do. He runs the same plays year after year.
Yep.
If he thinks it works once, he'll play it again. So looking to do that. As always with Cats players, it's really hard to pin down their roles, especially with the teams not being out. So. But Mullen's probably going to have a run around, most likely with Naz, you would think. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But as with most Cats games, mate, I'm going to say that this is a tricky one, and we're going to be finding most of our bets mainly targeting some unders on St Kilda players.
Yeah, very good, mate. And just a nice Thursday night to watch. You don't need to go heavy on every game, obviously. We've got Sydney v Adelaide on the Friday night. This is a cracker. Sydney's $1.52. The Crows are looking really good. They've had their little hiccup in the middle, but they've been strong in their wins. They're $2.52. The line's 11.5 points, and this is a great tester. So this is an opportunity for Adelaide to push ahead, get a big win. They can still finish top four. Adelaide and Melbourne can still finish top four, because if Adelaide don't drop a game, Hawthorn or Brisbane's going to lose unless they have a draw. So Adelaide can make it in. So this is a huge game for Adelaide. And Sydney obviously will be wanting to bounce back because they have not been great over the last month apart from that. I shouldn't say bounce back, but like they had that one win against the Dogs in there, right? They lost to Freo. There was another loss before that to Brizzy. And then there was the win against this the Saints in there. And then there was another close win as well against Port, which were not that impressive at all. So they've been a little bit. I know that there was that good Dogs win in there, but that's kind of it, Harro. So you're going to think they're going to want to have a strong result here.
Yeah, I mean, and this form around the Dogs just isn't really standing up either. So,
no.
And yeah, you go back, they only beat the Saints by 2 points. That was at the SCG as well. And I know that Adelaide, they're a stronger team than the Saints. So, yeah, I've been saying this, I only have to go back a couple of weeks before that, and they only beat Collingwood by a goal, and they lost to the Cats by 5 goals. So, and the week before that, they only beat North by 8 points. They lost unexpected scoring. So really, like, their form hasn't been strong for the last 7 or 8 weeks, Sydney. And for that reason, I think with the Crows getting a 2-goal start, I listen to all the press conferences and stuff like that. That's the main thing that I follow with, with other media and whatnot. And you just get the sense that the Crows are going over on a mission. It's like you get these away games, they really set themselves up for it. And I get that feeling about the Crows here. They are on a mission for this one. And I give them every chance, mate, the way the form's lining up and just the availability. I know they lose Laird, but I feel like they can replace him. Otherwise, they're pretty much fully stocked. And I think they can worry the Swannies. And so given that, I'm happy to back the Crows getting that 2-goal start as our sort of main bet for the game.
Wow.
Outside of that, Again, I feel like the total points is well set, and so I'll be probably staying out of that. There is a little bit of uncertainty with the weather, so we want to be watching that, Wally. From a player point of view, now I've picked out a couple here, and the first one is Rochelle, his disposal. So his line is set at 16.5. He's been scraping to 17 in his last couple of games, but he now gets a much tougher matchup. So, I mean, getting 17 against the Suns, when the Suns give up a fair bit of the footy, the ball is directed to him a lot in the forward line. I feel like, yeah, the Swans are definitely a much tougher matchup. So if he's only getting 17 against the likes of the Suns, I don't see him getting 17 here against the Swannies. Worrell is one here. Look, there's two ways to look at this. His line is really low. It's 20.5. He's only been under that 3 times this season. But the reason for it is he may be an obvious matchup for James Rowbottom. So that's one to weigh up. Grundy, I think, will really fancy himself here. He gets like the young Crows ruckman, Andrews, I think his name is. Look, Grundy is $2 to get 20, and the Crows give up the third most amount of disposals to rucks in the comp. So, but you might want dry weather for Grundy. Just a heads up on that one. James Jordan, does he go to Dawson or Rankin? I think it's most likely Dawson, which would leave Rankin off the hook. And he's in really good form, getting that full midfield role. So I'd be happy to be there. And then, look, the two guns for Sydney, I think they're both at a good advantage here. Heaney's line's down to 26.5. That's kind of on the low side for him with the way he's been going this year. The Crows will put a bit of pressure on him, but he's shown that he's definitely good enough to clear a line like that, even with a bit of pressure. And Chad Warner, he got 23 against Freo, and his line's 23.5. His last 6 before that, all over 23.5. Bit of an easier opponent to play through against it as a midfield matchup for Chad. And so happy to back him to get 24, mate, and that will round out the game.
Yeah, plenty to like there, Harro. That's really good. All right, we move into Saturday's games. We've got Port Adelaide, Freo to start. Port Adelaide's $10.25. Freo's $1.05. The line's 47.5, and I don't think the line would have been this big if Freo didn't do what they did in the second half to Sydney. But Port Adelaide have been in a lot of games this year. They've won plenty on expected scoring. They haven't got belted too much. Freo now are so clear ahead. Are they going to roll into Adelaide and just try and annihilate them? Or is this going to be let's go there, let's get our win, let's go home? Yeah, 8 goals feels like a lot, Harro, but they kind of keep doing it. They kind of keep delivering. When we're waiting for them to have a bit of an off game or something, apart from the GWS one, and GWS are up and about, Freo just anything in front of them, they just keep smashing. It's like they don't want to break. They don't want any of that. I don't know. It just feels like a big line, Harro.
Yeah, I just hate these games whereby you line the two teams up and you want to be with Freo, but you've got to also, when it's a big line like this, you need motivation on your side as well. You know, like we did with the Lions on the weekend, okay? Like we identified that the Lions need the percentage, and so they were worth targeting against the Dons. Where here, like the motivation really for Freo is to turn up, you know, play well enough to keep themselves in form, get the win, and get out of there. So, look, if I was it's 9 games a round's a lot. If you're gonna have one off, this probably be one of the harder ones to bet on, and so maybe you could have this one off, and I'm probably going to do that actually. So, but I can still find a couple here for the punters who do want to have an interest in this one. So we've known all year, mate, that Port and unders in the total points, they go together. Like I think we're now looking at they've been over twice and under 15 times. Right. We were on the one where they went over, one of them where they went over. And I'm actually prepared to take on the trend again and back over the 170.5. The reason being, I've seen a little bit of a shift in the way Port are playing. They're playing a little bit more direct now. They're not holding on to the footy as much. And Freo, they're just happy to go ahead and score as much as possible. And we saw when they get on a run, the floodgates can just open. And also, what happens is these one-sided games, or where the market has a side, $1.05 or less, they tend to go high scoring. And so with the line at 170.5, perfect daytime conditions at Adelaide Oval, I'm happy to take on the trend and be over. Then we look at disposals, mate, and I know there's obviously a lot of players out for Port. No Butters, no Horn Francis. So there's going to be other guys getting rolls through the midfield. I'll just caution the punters. Like it might be a Richards, or it might be a. I'm not sure actually who's going to take up the other midfield time, but we'll find out. We'll be able to work it out. But just remember, they've got to get their touches against Freo here, who are conceding the least in the comp. So although a guy might get more opportunity, it's not going to be a good matchup. So don't just pile into a guy because he's going to get a get good opportunity. You also have to be good enough against the opposition. And Freo are very stingy. And also, you look at what Port have been doing. They've been struggling to get 300 disposals lately. They're not hanging on to the footy. They're not handballing. And they're not sharing it around. It's just a lot of long down the line sort of stuff. And that's resulting in them actually have now become the fifth highest conceding side for disposals in the AFL across the last 5 games. And so I'm happy to have a look at a few Freo players who aren't set too high. And one's Luke Ryan, mate. We just saw Wilkie have 35 against him. And Ryan's line is 19.5. He's over that 9 of the last 13 games regardless. So happy to be there. Another guy is Johnson. We saw him really thrive with Young being out of the side on the weekend. Obviously, you might want to wait for teams before making a call on this one if Young comes back. But he did have 24 against the Swannies, and now his line's 19.5. So there's 2 player bets and a total points bet if you want to tune into this one.
Okay. So, and Johnson, you just go if Young isn't playing, basically.
If Young's not there, then he should keep his minutes, yeah.
Great. All right, no worries. We move through now. Continue with the Saturday games, Harro. We've got North Melbourne. North Melbourne's $2.76. Melbourne's $1.45. The line's 14.5 points. This will be under the lid at Marvel, which is on a Saturday, which is not Melbourne's go. We know they like Sunday Arvo at the G, and they're going really well there. Yeah, but I don't know what to make of North Melbourne, mate. Honestly, I think I like the D's here, but keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, my only reservation is the fact that it's at Marvel, but I think I'm willing to overlook at Walley because when you look at the form of the two teams, there is such a big gap that I think that Melbourne can overcome them not being on their favourite venue, basically. And I'll just go through North's form in the last month. I mean, they beat West Coast by a point. They beat Richmond by 25 points, but with only 5 extra scoring shots. They beat Essendon by 14 points, which that's hard to do, to only win by 14 against Essendon. They also lost to Port by 21 points, and they also only on the weekend just lost to the Pies by 4 points. The form around the Pies isn't strong, especially when you look at what Gold Coast did after having played the Pies. I'm putting all of that form for North in like a bracket just above the bottom 4. So it's it's the lower half of the middle of the ladder, like right at the bottom of the middle, basically, or just above the lowest bracket. Compare that to the D's. They had a 46-point win over the Tigers, a 35-point win over Hawthorn, although that Hawthorn game, I think you don't want to read too much into that because Hawthorn were quite weak in that match. A 17-point away loss to the Crows. Crows' form is strong. So, and a 45-point win over Essendon in the wet. And Melbourne also looked like they pulled up a little bit in that one as well. So, all of that form is putting the D's kind of at the bottom end of the 6, around that. And it's a good 30 or 40 points ahead of where that Roos form is, in my opinion. So I'm going to be happy to back the D's here to win by that 15 points, mate. Just even I know they got to overcome this little venue issue, but I feel like they're just playing such stronger brand of footy that I think they'll get it done. The total points. Now we've been on the unders in North games for about a month now, but I definitely saw a change in their style. On the weekend against the Pies, and I feel like maybe we got a bit lucky with landing the unders in that game because North didn't hang on to the footy and play this chip, mark game, slow the game down at all. They didn't do that, and it just went under. And so I feel like with North maybe flicking back to a different mode again. Like they've probably worked out they went too far one way, and now they're correcting. I think the total points will go back up again. And we saw the D's, they do play pretty much aggressive footy, and we saw that against the Tigers on the weekend. So I do lean to the over 179.5 in this one. Player-wise, there was a good one we had on the weekend, Walley, and it was Simpkin to get a big bump in his disposals with Wardlaw being out of the side for North. And he had 32. So I think we were getting a 20 line. Now, the line's gone up 2. So I feel like he's going to keep that role. And a line of 22.5, I'm happy to go with Simpkin again. Rivers is another guy whose line looks low to me. His line's 17.5. Now, his last 4 are all over 19, so clearing this by quite a bit. And with North changing their style, the backs aren't going as low as what they were earlier in the season against North. And we saw Dacos Josh Dacos, that is, have 33 on the weekend. Howe had 22, and Houston also had 20. So, the Pies' back's not going low. Backs haven't been going that low against North for a little while now. And so happy with Rivers at a low line, 17.5.
Very good, Harro. All right, we move through the next game on Saturday. We've got Collingwood Carlton Saturday night, Harro. This is a barn burner at the G. It would have been great for Carlton fans if obviously they had have won on Saturday night and gone in this 8 straight and that. But you're playing good footy. Saturday we just put a line through that, so it makes it, I feel like, not as much pressure on the Blues, but playing better footy. So from a neutral perspective, I think most of us would be really looking forward to this. $1.65 the Pies, Carlton's $2.25. The line's only a goal; it's 6.5. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on how you're approaching this one.
Yeah, actually, I feel like I would have it the other way around. I'd have the Blues slight favourites, like maybe, I'd probably have the Blues about an 8-point favourite in this one, which means we're getting quite a good sort of edge here with the Pies giving up a 6.5 start. I just sort of mentioned the Pies' form. Beating North by 4 points doesn't really line up great, given all the form around North is quite average. Beating the Gold Coast by 6 points, also not great, given all the form around the Gold Coast. So I feel like the Pies' form is a bit misleading. And even when they played Richmond, I mentioned it last week and the week before that wasn't a strong performance. I know the scoreboard said 34 points, but that was clear to everyone that what happened in that one was they got very lucky with the umpires, especially around the goal mouth, and also with Richmond. Like, Richmond took on some really aggressive kicks, which turned into goals late in the game, trying to get themselves back into it. There wasn't really a lot between the two sides, I didn't feel, on the day. And the Blues form, look, I'm happy to give them I don't use wet weather form in my form, basically. I exclude wet weather games from dry weather form because it is a completely different game of footy. And
Harro, I'll just say, you've always put a line through. You've always said this. This is not a new thing. You've always said, and especially games like that, when you can see the rain that clearly on the television, and when it is just absolutely slipping and sliding everywhere, it is like that was insane conditions, and it was actually a tough watch for the most part. because of how bad the conditions were. I think
Yeah.
that this is not a new thing. And if you're going to get good conditions on Saturday, which we're expecting good conditions all weekend, which is great down in Melbourne, mate, you have to put a line through it. I just want to stamp that. This is not something leading into Carlton Collingwood. It's not an anti-Collingwood thing. Harro has always done this. And those conditions, if you haven't seen it, go have a look at the replay. That cannot marry up with any other game. You can't use that in your form. It's like a horse racing where the track is somehow worse than a 10 and the horses and the jockeys can't even see the finish line in the straight. You just got to put a line through it when they're hitting a good four. Like it's 100%. So I just wanted to drive that point home so no one thinks this is a Collingwood agenda, Harro.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, if Carlton were giving Collingwood a 3-goal start, I'd be talking about how I want to back Collingwood here, but they're not.
Correct.
So I just feel like the values with Carlton here. You do look at Carlton's form going before the wet weather game, and it is much stronger than Collingwood's form. The Richmond result, it's a little bit the opposite to the Collingwood game, whereby Richmond actually got the better of the luck in that game, and the scoreline flattered Richmond in that one, in my opinion. And everything before that from Carlton is really strong and a little level above what the Pies have been producing, especially in the last month. A couple of other areas we can look at this. Again, I'm not too interested in the total points in this one. Another game whereby if I had to bet, I'd probably be under. These types of games, they do lean to the under, especially Carlton. If you look at Carlton's good run since Fraser's come on board, most of them are going to the under, and so that's where I would be forced to bet. But I know Collingwood are trying to play a bit more aggressive now. So if Collingwood were still playing that style they were playing last year, I'll be hammering the under. But they don't seem to be. They're definitely playing with a little bit more flair and trying to score a bit more. So I'm not inclined to do that. Ed Allen, he's a guy I wanted to mention. Not saying that this is a bet, but he's almost certainly going to go to Cripper. And this, I think, will be Ed Allen's biggest test so far. And the bookies have adjusted. Cripper's line's down to 25.5 now. And I'm not prepared to take Cripps on, though, even knowing the tag is coming to him, because I feel like Cripper will fancy this matchup. Younger sort of player coming onto him, and Cripps will use his big frame, and I think he's going to put him under a bit of pressure, and I think he knows how much of an impact he can have around the stoppages here and getting the ball going Carlton's way. A big watch on Hewitt for me here. Now, if Hewitt's playing, that means Chera's back out onto a wing. If Hewitt doesn't play and they replace him with a winger, that will mean that Chera will play midfield, and he's actually in really good form, Wally. I thought he's one of Carlton's best on the weekend. His line's down around the 22 sort of mark, and so that's just a little area we can look for. We can watch what the teams do and make a call then. Walsh, his line's 29.5. We're pretty much certain that the tag will go to Cripper, which leaves Walsh in a good position here. He's actually loves playing Collingwood as well. 3 of his last 4 are over this 30, and the other one missed by 1. So happy to back Walshy. And the Blues defenders here are at a pretty good spot. So your Wilsons and your Florence, the running link-up types, they tend to do well against the Pies. And so also their lines aren't too high. So happy to play those guys as well, mate. But overall, I'll be tuning into this one, and I'll be having my money on the Blues, and I'll also be barracking for them too. So doubling up Wally, it could be a happy or a sad night. We'll find out.
Nice one, mate. And best of luck to you on the Baggers on Saturday night. I can't wait for that one. It's going to be an absolute cracker. West Coast Brisbane's the other game on the night. $8.60 for West Coast. Brisbane $1.07. The line's 44.5. Brisbane are flying at the moment. They got that percentage bank on the weekend, which they needed. Maybe they see this as another opportunity. Maybe they just want to go over and get the points, but they are full steam ahead into September. and looking for a three-peat. So they have all the motivation in the world to win. Who knows how much motivation they got to win by 10 goals. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Another one of these tough ones, Wally, where the line's really high, where the line's travelling. I think it's the longest trip in footy. And yeah, West Coast go pretty well at home. They've beaten the line more than any other team this year, West Coast. They're underrated by the market. And so, look, I'm not going to be getting heavily involved in this one. And it's probably not going to have a lot of eyeballs on it, this one either, in terms of it's being played at the same time as the Carlton Collingwood game. There is a bit of a weather watch on this one. So I tell you, if this line drops too much, Wally, and with a bit of weather possibly being around, but it looks like it might clear up, Brisbane Lions games are going exclusively high scoring without
Yep.
any exception to the rule. So they are playing such an attacking brand. I listened to Fags and he said, we feel like we play our best footy in fifth gear. Like, if we're trying to score, it actually helps our defense as well, and that's all they're trying to do right now. And so, if we looks like it's not going to rain too much, even like I don't mind if you get a little shower during a game. That doesn't really put me off too much. So,
Yep.
but often it can bring the line right down, and we saw that with the Richmond Melbourne game on the weekend, where there was a few showers in the run of the game, but it still went over, only just, but it still went over. So that's where my thinking's going to be into this one around the total points and watching the weather and seeing if the line if it can drop a bit for us and the weather looks like it might clear up, could present a really nice opportunity. Otherwise, mate, not going to be getting too heavily involved in that one.
Understandable too, mate. Understandable. All right, we move on to Sunday's games. Richmond Hawthorn, the G, Sunday, 17 degrees, sunny, no rain. That's MCG beers. Harro, that's what that is.
Nice.
MCG beers on Sunday, Arvo. Richmond v Hawthorn. I'll be there for this. Can't wait. Richmond's $11. Hawthorn's $1.04. The line's 50.5. The line's big enough. Percentage does not matter to Hawthorn because of the draw. So, yeah, I don't know what to expect out of the game, but could we see a high-scoring one here with Hawks' ability to score and Richmond trying to attack a little bit more and being a bit more open? Is that what we're looking at here?
That's exactly what I've got here, Wally. You've hacked my computer and read my notes, so well done. First thing I've got is like good conditions, over 173.5. Hawks rarely play a game that goes under that that's not impacted heavily by conditions. And also we know like the Tigers are working on trying to score. So, and we've seen the Tigers games go relatively high most of the time recently. So that's where we want to be. Now, also, a couple of things like, yes, Hawthorn don't need the percentage. They've already shown that they're willing to shut up shop a little bit late in games. I can't remember the game, but I've heard Mitchell talk about it, that percentage isn't required and they'll just do what they've got to do to win. Now, you could, if you're a game, take the Tigers second half line at 25.5, or you could just take their fourth quarter line, getting a 13-point start. So I don't mind those types of motivational plays, I call them. I listened to Uze speak in the post game on the weekend, and he was really proud of the way his team fought it out to the end. And that's what they're trying to do, is learn how to play four quarters of footy regardless of the result. So I don't mind the setup for those types of bets. It also looks like a good sort of game for disposal bets as well. And there's one that I've picked out here, Wally. He's been pretty good to us this year, whether we've backed him over or under. We've been able to find him, and it's Sicily, mate. His line is now down to 20.5 after a tough month, either coming up against tough opponents, getting focused on, or playing in tough conditions that don't really suit him, or also playing without some of his helpers there. Now he'll definitely get one of his helpers back in Weddle, which will help free him up a little bit. This is also a good matchup, and his line's low.
Battle should be back as well, Harro. Josh
Perfect.
Battle, I reckon, is going to be back. So
Nice.
Battle, Weddle will be back. Obviously, Carl Amon comes out, but Impey's in there. So It's just the backline's starting to look more like it's meant to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, our favourite player, keep his spot. Is it Mraz?
He has to, doesn't he?
Yeah, I just think he's the man. He could be the thing down there that boosts Hawthorn, I reckon. So anyway,
Well,
enough
mate,
about
intercept defenders in finals, Harro. That's what you want.
yeah, yeah. So Sicily's a bet. Other one here I found is Cam McKenzie. His line's only 20.5. Richmond give up a lot of disposals to midfielders. He's not the sort of guy that they're going to be trying to put in cotton wool at the end of a game or anything like that. He's over 20.5, 8 of his last 11. So he does have the odd off game, but I think on balance, I'd be happy to be with McKenzie. And also this guy, Walley, I was looking for a Tigers player because, keep our Tigers fans happy, but he's just in such good form, I can't ignore him. And it's Tim Taranto. And I watched him I had a bet on him on the weekend, and his line was 24.5. It's still 24.5 this week. Now, he got only the 26 for the game, but he was heavily tagged after half time. And so I feel like that could have been 34 or something, and we'd be looking at a line of 26 or 27 this week, if not for the tag. Now, the Hawks aren't going to tag him, and I think he's just in such good form, Taranto, that I'd be happy to back him to get his 25 this week.
All right, very good, Harro. All right, we've got two more games on the Sunday, of course. Next one on the card is Gold Coast Western Bulldogs. Spoke about this off the top, and the Gold Coast being absolutely nowhere. They're $1.81. Western Bulldogs are $2.04. Neither of them have looked great. Gold Coast, I think, have looked worse, but it is at home. The line's 2.5. We would have thought after a couple of rounds into this season that this was going to be for a top 4 spot. And now it's for a team that are trying to make the 10 and another team who have apparently, according to their coach, given up.
I think when you listen to Dimmer, it's like he's pretty honest, and he's really saying that they're not winning the flag this year, is what he's saying. And you can't talk shit to your players. I mean, they know the same. They know they're not playing good enough footy as well, and so I don't mind the honesty. Will it affect their performance in terms of they do look like they're just so down on confidence right now, and like it doesn't seem like it's a fun place to be, which is such a big thing in sport, I reckon. Always, had the most success when you're having the most fun. Anyway, I can't oppose them though, because the Dogs are just no good. I'm sorry, they're not. They got out of jail on the weekend by a bit of brilliance by Bont. Otherwise, we'd be looking at, West Coast had 25 scoring shots to the Dogs' 21 scoring shots. I mean, that's a 4 scoring shot loss to West Coast on your home deck. I mean, that form just doesn't. And you look the week before, they were pants by Sydney, and all the form around Sydney's poor. I just can't have them. And even Bevo said in his presser, he said, I'm trying things to see if we can find another level, because the level we're at is not going to get us anywhere. So Bevo knows that he's trying things. They also lose Bailey Dale here. And how important is he? Like, sets him up. His ball use is elite. The Dogs are a team that rely so heavily on their top 6. Their tail starts at about 7, and you start removing some of their guns. It's like they literally look at their team this week. Like Libba's not Libba. Like they've got Bont and Richards and Norton, and I feel like their tails are really starting at 4 this week. So I can't back them. So the bet that you might have here is if the Suns turn up, they could win this by 40 points. Maybe it's one of those back to the wall type games. I'm not willing to back the Suns at $1.80 the way they've been going recently. But if they say, fuck it, we're going to show people at home in front of our home crowd, the Dogs aren't going very well. And so perhaps they could, maybe I could have a speculator on the Suns to turn around and win by a 25 or a 40 or something.
Yep.
But other than that, I'm pretty much saying you can't really support either of these teams.
Yeah.
What you could do though is defense is like not on the menu. For the Dogs have just given up 25 scoring shots to West Coast. The Suns are giving up 30 plus scoring shots every week. So over 170 in good conditions up on the Gold Coast. That's somewhere you could be. Teams will be important here. Love to know who's going to take all the Bailey Dales kicks. Will it be a Bramble? Will it be a? I don't know. We'll try and find out. But Bevo's hard to get a read on at
Yeah,
times.
I feel like Bramble's been one that has taken kick-ins before
Yeah.
and then does get a lot of that second kick out of the back line as well and has had games where he's gone big. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a Selwood or someone. We'll see, but
Yeah.
Bramble feels like the logical one that could go. But is Harrow, for example, is this something you wait and maybe see if there's some clues in the presser and also teams, obviously?
Definitely. Definitely one of those ones. Gold Coast, there should be some good opportunities on the Gold Coast side of things. So both the Alwyn boys playing in the back line against the Dogs should be pretty good here. Now, Bodie Alwyn, his line's only 22.5. He's over that 12 out of 17 games this season, and he gets a good matchup. Now, Zeke Alwyn, I kind of laugh at Zeke Alwyn every time I look at him. I don't mind him. He does butcher the footy a bit, but he's just such a serious dude. He's always got a really serious look on his face. He just makes me laugh. Anyway, his roll's 22.5, and we saw him have 32 in this role against the Pies 2 weeks ago. So I could see him doing something similar to that. Even last week in a tough matchup against Adelaide, he still got 21. So with a line of 22.5 back at home, much better matchup in a role that it's a really good role. I'd be happy to play both the Alwyn boys, mate.
Great. All right. Then, Harrow, we've got the last game for the round. Obviously, we're getting to this point. It's very hard to give a lot here. We'll do more after teams. But Essendon GWS, Essendon at $6.70. The Giants are $1.11. The line is 39.5, Harrow.
Yeah, tricky one this because the Dons should actually field just about their best team for the season. They don't have a lot of availability issues at the moment. There's a few coming back this week, so they should name for them, a pretty decent side, and they're getting a 40-point start on their home deck. GWS, pretty inconsistent side. Like 40 points down against Geelong. Obviously, they turned it around, had a great win, so well done to them, but they're not putting 4 quarters together, are they? So bit of a tough one, I reckon. All seriousness, so like just on Zach Merritt for a minute, like I don't know. They played him forward on the weekend. I don't know what that's about. He's your best player. Just play him in the midfield. But then also him from his perspective, it's like he gets named in a shit role and he kind of he's dragging his bottom lip behind him all night. It's like you've got, I don't know, just put your best players in your best roles and let them play would be my advice. Because putting Zach Merritt at half forward, I don't think it does him any good. It doesn't do the team any
No.
good. So I don't know what that's all about. Maybe he should just go on a holiday and then come back, and play for someone else because it's just not working. I don't know why they would do that to him. Having said that, this week in front of their home fans with a decent side on the park, I could see them covering the line against GWS, who are a little bit sort of inconsistent. Having said that, if they got smashed again, also wouldn't surprise me. I don't have heaps for us at this point, Wally, just like without seeing the teams. There's going to be quite a few changes. GWS, they're one of the highest disposal sides in the comp, and they're also playing a team that gives up heaps of disposals. So, but you look at their lines. I had a quick look at their lines, and they're all set like Clayton Oliver's set at 34.5. Lockie Ash is set at 32.5. Like they're set to the max. So you got to be a little bit careful in these situations, and you don't want to just go, oh look, GWS are playing Essendon give up heaps of the footy. I'm just going to charge in and back all the GWS players because their lines are very high. So we'll have a bit of a look at this one after teams, Wally, and see if we can find an angle then.
Sounds good, Harro. It's that time of the week, mate. What is your best bet of the round?
Well, I'm gonna double down, Wally, and I really like the D's, but let's have it on the Carlton Pies game just to make it a bit more fun, and let's have the Blues, mate, getting a 6.5 start, and that way, if we get done, all the Pies supporters can pile on and get into me.
Great. So this week I'm gonna record this because I want everyone to know that we're saying the best bet is Carlton at the plus. The next best, which happens a lot in racing, less on our show, is Melbourne minus 14.5.
True, yeah, true.
Okay, so we wouldn't usually have a next best, but this week I think we should because all the Collingwood fans out there that are skeptical, we like the D's minus 14.5. Harro, honestly, mate, I hope it's a great night for you. Should be a lot of fun. When Carlton and Collingwood are good, it is good for footy. So hopefully they put on a great spectacle at the big house on Saturday night. Hopefully there's 90,000 plus there and it's just a cracking game of footy. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm just looking forward to a great game. I hope they get it done for you, though. Harro, you've been great as always, mate. Or just another reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing. If you're subscribing, share it with your mates and get them involved. And check out our Discord. It's on our socials. Get involved. As we said, this week, we're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday giveaways. They'll be announced on the morning of each day. Easy to get involved in. Harro, I'll see you next week.
Over.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.